Hello again. One current running through anti-racism is really liable to cause problems for entire nations in the not-too-distant future. This is the creation of a permanently discontented section of society who have been indoctrinated into thinking that they have for centuries been systematically cheated out of things which rightfully belong to them. Since this is happening contemporaneously with a growing feeling among a fairly substantial part of the majority population that they too are being discriminated against, it is not hard to see that the stage is set for serious difficulties in the near future. If one constantly tells a community that they have received a raw deal and been deprived of their rights, then it's hard to see how this can fail to inculcate in them a sense of grievance. It would not be in the least surprising if they acquired a pervasive feeling that they were the victims of sharp practice and entitled to some recompense for the shabby way in which they have been treated. This might take the form of monetary compensation or special consideration when applying for jobs or university places. After being systematically overlooked and sidelined for hundreds of years, surely it would be only right if they were now allowed to take their rightful place alongside all those of European and Asian heritage who have done so well out of a corrupt and racist society. It is this feeling which lays behind growing demands for compensation from present Western governments for the historical evils of slavery and colonialism. In Britain, such a bill is about to be presented to the government by the former colony of Jamaica, and it will be for billions of pounds. There are growing demands in the United States for reparations to be paid to African Americans for the injustice which their distant ancestors suffered when they were taken from Africa and transported across the Atlantic Ocean. In California, a task force set up by the governor there has reported that all the 2 million black people living in the state should be given £164,000 of taxpayers' money. Readers are invited to conduct a little thought experiment at this point. Imagine, if you will, that this decision is put into practice, as it may well be. Two impoverished families live side by side, one black and the other white. The black family, consisting of a man and woman and their 3 children, are suddenly given $1 million. Overnight, they become millionaires. Their neighbours, who are every bit as short of money as the black family were until they received their reparations, get nothing. They have what is popularly termed white privilege, and thus belong to the class of oppressors and slave owners. One wonders what effect this hypothetical situation would have upon this white family and others like them. Would they see it as an act of justice that every black person in the state was to be given $200,000? One suspects not. Far more likely is that such largesse on the part of the state would cause fury and resentment, both against their government and also those families who had overnight been transformed into millionaires. It would at the very least hardly be likely to improve race relations in the United States. It must also be borne in mind that many white families have ancestors who were exploited for centuries in mines and mills, building sites and factories, all for the benefit of a handful of landlords and wealthy employers. A lot of impoverished white people have been systematically robbed of the fruits of their labour to no less an extent than the average black person. This is regrettably the nature of society, or at least capitalist society. Black people are not uniquely entitled to be compensated for the inequalities which are an integral part of the capitalist systems in countries such as Britain and the United States. Then too, one wonders how far back this compensation for slavery should stretch, especially in the case of the British Empire. Jamaica and other Caribbean nations are currently circling the treasury in London like hungry sharks, wondering to what extent they might be able to put the bite on the British government for these reparations. How far back should this go? 200 years? 300? Further? I ask because we soon come to a tricky question which is of immediate concern to me because of my own ancestry. If we go back a few more centuries, we will find that when the Domesday Book was compiled in 1086, 10% of the English population were found to be slaves. This was chattel slavery, with men and women and children being bought and sold like cattle. Should the descendants of these slaves too be entitled to compensation? This is such an interesting point, and I think I shall make it the subject of a video tomorrow, for it involves Ireland too. Dublin, the capital city of Ireland, was of course founded as a slave trading centre by the Vikings, and it was from this awful trade that the city itself arose. I fancy the Irish too might owe people like me some reparations.